This is one of the most common human behaviors, yet it is rarely understood. If you ask someone why they procrastinate, they will usually say, "I'm just lazy," or "I'm bad at managing my time." Psychologists and neuroscientists, however, have found that neither of those things is usually true. Procrastination is not a time management problem, it is an emotion management problem. It is a coping mechanism designed to deal with the negative moods associated with a specific task. 1. The biological conflict, the brain at war with itself. At a neurological level, procrastination is a battle between two parts of your brain. The limbic system, the monkey brain, this is one of the oldest, most primal parts of the brain. It is responsible for basic emotions, the fight or flight response, and the drive for immediate pleasure and survival. It operates automatically and very fast. It wants instant gratification and wants to avoid discomfort immediately. The prefrontal cortex, the CEO, this is the newer, more evolved part of your brain, right behind your forehead. It is responsible for planning, decision-making, understanding long-term consequences, and willpower. The conflict, when you face a difficult task, like writing a report, your prefrontal cortex says, "We need to do this now so we don't get fired later." But the task causes anxiety. The limbic system senses that anxiety as a threat and immediately hijacks the brain, saying, "Danger, this feels bad. Let's do something that feels good right now to make the bad feeling go away." The limbic system is older and stronger. Unless you consciously override it, it will win, leading you to open TikTok instead of Excel. 2. Psychological and emotional drivers. If procrastination is an emotion regulation problem, what are the emotions we are trying to regulate? They are usually rooted in deep-seated fears and perceptions of self. A. Perfectionism and fear of failure. This is perhaps the biggest driver among high achievers. Procrastination acts as a protective shield for the ego. If you're a perfectionist, the idea of producing mediocre work is terrifying. The pressure to do it perfectly is overwhelming. By delaying the task, you are delaying the potential pain of not meeting your own high standards. Furthermore, if you procrastinate until the very last minute and then turn in a B- achievement, you have a built-in excuse. "I only had 4 hours to do it." If you tried your hardest for a week and still got a B-, that would mean you aren't perfect. Procrastination protects you from testing your true limits. B. Temporal discounting, present self versus future self. Humans are hardwired to value immediate rewards much more highly than future rewards. This is called temporal discounting. Intellectually, you know that finishing the project today is good for future you, but emotionally, future you feels like a stranger. Why should present you suffer through boring work just so that some stranger next week can feel relieved? Present you wants to watch Netflix. Procrastination is essentially present you treating future you like a jerk, dumping all the hard work on them. C. Overwhelm and decision fatigue. Sometimes a task isn't scary, it's just too big. If the steps required to finish a project are unclear, the brain views it as an ambiguous threat. When you don't know exactly what the very first step is, your brain freezes up to conserve energy. Procrastination becomes a way to avoid the mental energy required to figure out how to start. D. Neurodivergence, ADHD. For people with ADHD, procrastination is often linked to executive dysfunction. The brain struggles to regulate dopamine, prioritize tasks, perceive time accurately, time blindness, and initiate actions until the stimulation levels are high enough, usually right before a deadline. 3. The characteristics of the task. Research by Dr. Timothy Pitchell and others has identified specific characteristics that make a task highly likely to be procrastinated on. We procrastinate when a task feels boring, frustrating, difficult, ambiguous, unclear instructions or path forward, unstructured, or lacking in personal meaning or intrinsic reward. If a task hits several of these triggers, your limbic system will actively fight your attempt to do it. 4. The adrenaline junkie myth. Many people claim, "I work better under pressure." This is rarely true. You usually work faster under pressure, but the quality of work is usually lower than if you had taken your time. What these people are addicted to is the panic monster. When the deadline gets so close that the consequences of not doing the task become terrifying, like getting fired or failing a class, the fear overrides the limbic system's desire for comfort. A massive shot of adrenaline kicks in, allowing the prefrontal cortex to finally take control. People become reliant on this adrenaline rush to overcome their inability to self-start, mistakenly believing it's their best way of working. Summary. Procrastination is an irrational but deeply human response. It is not about laziness. It is a momentary relief from anxiety, boredom, or fear. We trade a short burst of good feelings now for a large amount of stress and regret later because our brains are wired to prioritize the present moment over the abstract future.